400 years have passed since they have been present everywhere. Due to their terror behavior and their brutal and bloody revenge, they have become the subject of Hollywood films. Their silence is their most important stronghold. They have more than 100,000 members, and these ruthless individuals are called Yakuza. In 2011, Barack Obama's government announced that they had seized all the wealth and assets of Yakuza groups in this country. And as a result of starting this operation, more than 26,000 members of these groups were arrested in far-flung corners of the world. However, over time it became clear that these groups not only do not weaken with such actions, but quickly adapt to new conditions. But who are these individuals with bodies covered in tattoos, ready to carry out all the orders of their leaders? Simply put, Yakuza can be considered the mafia of Japan. But they are not just one group. Rather, Yakuza consists of various groups that originate from an ancient culture. They claim that their lineage dates back to the samurais of Japan. It's estimated that these criminal groups today have more than 100,000 members, and the largest group appointed to Yakuza is the Japanese mafia group called Yamaguchi-gumi. According to the Interpol documents, the story of the Yamaguchi-gumi groups dates back 80 years old and consists of 850 different subgroups with 39,000 members. Now you see the 6th generation successor of Yamaguchi-gumi in a private session with the leaders of this criminal gang. According to CIA reports, Shinobu Tsukasa is among the top 100 criminals globally, involved in drug trafficking, pornography, underground gambling, extortion, human trafficking, sex trafficking, arms trafficking, bribery, coercion, murder, and threats, and making him one of the darkest figures in Asia and the world. He was first imprisoned for killing the leaders of another mafia group in a samurai sword duel, but quickly gained freedom through his connections, and today he's running and expanding his empire in East Asia through ruthless methods and horrific crimes. Even though Yakuza groups are widely known and accessible, entering them or arresting their leaders and members is by no means an easy task. Naturally, this situation has its own specific reasons. For example, as mentioned, inside the Yamaguchi-gumi group, there are 850 factions under different branches. This means that if one of these factions is attacked by the police due to the lack of communication between these sub-branches, police operations turned into a deadlock. Furthermore, these spider-like networks are organized in such a way that even the arrest of a godfather or the main leader of the group will not change anything, because the biggest and most fundamental characteristics of these criminal gangs is the continuation of activities automatically. So much so that between 1997 and 2005, due to the absence of a suitable individual for leadership, the Yamaguchi-gumi group was managed without a leader during these years. However, its activities were fully operational like a clock during this time. It's estimated that the annual net income of this criminal gang exceeds $80 billion. From past to present, within Yakuza groups, internal discipline has always been maintained through severe punishments. For example, if a member of this group commits a wrong behavior or action, their little finger is cut off during a session and ceremony, and thus their sin is cleansed, allowing them to return to their previous activities. The finger that is cut off in this ceremony is presented to the group leader during another ceremony. However, in recent years, with the spread of news about these ceremonies and to prevent member identification and conceal their activities, it's claimed that this traditional punitive method has taken on another form. Nowadays, it's said that after the leader of the group reviews it, the severed finger is attached to the person's hand. It's said that the roots of the Yubitsuba ceremony, meaning finger cutting, date back to ancient times. According to legend, by cutting off fingers, the person could no longer hold the sword probably as they did in the past, thus becoming more dependent on their companions. However, this provision can only be used twice. If a member commits a mistake or betrayed for the third time, their punishment is death, and his assets will be confiscated. Although it is said that there are more than 100,000 Yakuza gangsters in the world, entering these groups is by no means an easy task. Firstly, the individual must be a true patriot and fully respect Japanese customs and traditions. Due to this extreme nationalistic perspective, in the 1950s, many communists left this group and students in East Asia were massacred by the Yakuza. These activities in those years can be considered one of the main reasons for the expansion and advancement of the Yakuza, as they successfully managed to gain complete support of conservative and nationalist parties in the power of Japan and also the United States. Simply put, a Yakuza member has no right to oppose or question orders and must become completely obedient like a robot. It's this obedience that they consider themselves as the continuers of the samurai lineage. Their main family is no one, but the members of the group in some way. Even if they have a spouse or child, they do not hesitate to sacrifice them for the group. For this reason, members refer to men of their rank as kyūdai, meaning brother, and women members as shimie, meaning sister, to senior members as yaban, meaning father, and to the leader of the group by the name kumicho. A new member to adopt and familiarize with the customs and laws of the Yakuza. Several years with older members, namely the yabanas, continue their relationship as master and apprentice to the activity. It's claimed that Yakuza groups, after South American drug cartels, have the highest annual income for illegal activities. So much so that underground activities in countries such as China, South Korea, Australia, Thailand, and Malaysia are entirely in their hands. CIA reports estimate that all monopolies on drug trafficking, obscenities, human trafficking, and arms smuggling in these countries belong to the Yakuza. Yakuza is not accustomed to collaborating with other mafias, except for the Russian mafia. According to claims, Yakuza's interests in the Central Asia and America are provided by the Russian mafia, and their interests in Europe are provided by the Japanese mafia. The strange point here is that this intimate relationship has been going on for 40 years without the slightest problem, and the main basis of this relationship is respect for arms smuggling. Yakuza is the owner of the largest arms trafficking organization in the world, so that according to research published in 2011, 33% of the firearms and rifles produced in the United States are in Japan, 60% in China, and 10% in Philippines. It's claimed that this volume of weapons is smuggled out of the United States only by Yakuza. It's said that the relationship between the Russian mafia and Yakuza has been based on trades and arms smuggling since the time of the Soviet Union. Today, alongside that, it's continued in the fields of drug and obscenities. In the 400 years old culture of Yakuza, one of the most important features is tattooing, which covers its members' body. In the oldest documents related to the culture and country of Japan, tattooing is one of the methods of punishment and showing it. According to a law dating back to the 1720s, crimes such as theft, threats, or similar crimes were marked on the criminal's body with tattoos, representing the previous record of these individuals. And over the years, members of the Yakuza began symbolically documenting the illegal activities they engaged in on their bodies. Tattooing carried meaning and a story within it, with the colors used symbolically representing the scope of their activities. According to documents and research published in the United States in recent years, the more these mafia groups are involved in drug trafficking, the more crime, murder, and violence increases proportionally. While 80% of murders in Japan were linked to the Yakuza in the past, this figure had decreased to 40%. With technological advancement, these criminal gangs now seek killing rivals as a last resort out of fear of arrest, because the Yakuza have been able to achieve their goals using never methods such as bribery, terror, and threats. It's worth noting that today in Japan, individuals from the Yakuza are present and hold positions in top technology companies. If payments of tribute and extortion to the Yakuza are not made, neither ships will leave the ports nor will trucks transport their goods. Even peaceful sleep will exist for the founders and their families. Now, imagine the extent of this network and spiderweb. The Japanese government in recent years, however, has entered into a full-fledged war with the Yakuza. The police of this country, with the help of FBI and CIA, in 2016, began extensive operation to dismantle these criminal gangs under the pretext of two Yakuza's power struggle in this country, which has resulted in the deaths of many of its members. But for years, it has not yielded any results. As we mentioned, these gangs are so deeply rooted in the culture and power of this country that cutting them off won't be easy. It's claimed that 1/3 of the members of the Japanese parliament are either members of the Yakuza or have connection with them. And finally, when such a society that the whole world knows for their orderliness, respectfulness, and their technology, these dangerous and criminal groups emerge, it astonishes and surprises people. But well, wealth and power have always been two elements in history that have tempted and will always tempt humanity. As always, until the next meeting, thank you very much for being here.